So today I really want to talk to you about how to save money on a low income. I don't know if you know this, but the majority of people in America live paycheck to paycheck. There's a study that said over 60% of people didn't have $1,000 or don't have $1,000 to pay for an emergency. So chances are if you're watching this, you might be one of those people. And I've definitely been one of those people as well. And so really what I want to talk to you about is my experience of living on a low income and kind of starting out at my first job. The first job I ever had was at a movie theater, and I made $5.15 an hour. And so after you pay taxes like payroll taxes and money goes to all these different places, it doesn't go very far, right? And so for me, there was a lot of things that I had to do differently when I was living on a low income. I remember, when I got my first car, I basically, my uncle had a car that got stolen. It was a 91 Nissan Sentra, and it got impounded. They found it, took it to the impound, and he basically said, if you want this car, you just got to pay the impound fee, and then you got to fix it up. So I'm like, oh, great, it's my first car. I'm going to go there, and I forget what it was, but let's say that it was like $150 to get out of the impound. But now I've got this car. It was missing a hood, it was missing a fender, and it was just one of those things where I didn't care. I was like, hey man, this is something that's going to get me to work, to school, to whatever it was at the time. And so I just thought, okay, I'm going to fix this up. So as I worked, I would save up money and I would buy parts for the car. So I went to a pull-apart yard here in Phoenix where you actually go in with your own tools and you pull the hood off of another car, you pull the fender off of another car. I took a window out of a car. So I'm literally looking for other Nissan Sentras that are similar years where I can just swap out parts. Well, obviously I couldn't find the same color hood and the same color fender. So literally I had a gray hood and a gray fender and the rest of the car was white, right? I didn't care. I'm like, I'm putting this together myself, right? I'm literally turning the wrench, putting it on. And so that's the first way that I would say, if you want to save money on a low income, you've got to do the repairs yourself, right? It costs a lot of money to have a mechanic do it. Or if you're to hire someone to come out to your house and repair your washer, right? There are things that I've done where I just watch a YouTube video and it's how to replace water pump in washer, and I literally unscrew screw, take off panel, unscrew water pump, put new water pump in, right? And you learn these skills, and they're very valuable skills, right? So even when you have more money, you can still do those things and save even more. But those are one of the things that I know for me personally, when I lived on a low income, I had to do myself. The second way to save money on a low income is gonna be by eliminating your cable. And I know for me, cable was a big thing, like to watch TV shows. I will say, I hate commercials because I feel like this constant, I gotta wait to watch the TV show. It just was one of those things that even before there was a TiVo or even before you had streaming services, I was always bummed out about. So now that you have things like Netflix, oh my gosh, it's $9 a month to where you can watch tons of TV shows, tons of movies for a fraction of the price. And so there was a study that showed the average cable bill was $107 per month. So you switched from cable to Netflix and you save almost $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. That's incredible. And I will say, I have not missed it, especially not the commercials. One of the shows that we watched on it, probably 2 or 3 times, all the way through, was The Office. And I heard recently that it's leaving Netflix, which is horrible. So you definitely have to look for other shows. But there are plenty of other shows on there that you can find to bring entertainment for your family, for kids, with a spouse. And so just canceling cable, switching to Netflix can be one simple thing to be able to save more money on a low income. The third way to save money on a low income is to bring your own lunch to work. And I know for me, that was just a necessity, right? I didn't have an option. But I know that there was always the temptation of coworkers going out to lunch or being like, oh, I don't want to eat peanut butter and jelly sandwich again, and all these types of things. But the reality is actually tuna fish sandwiches. I used to eat tuna fish sandwiches all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think I've had a tuna fish sandwich in years now, just because it's I don't want to taste that anymore. I'd rather have probably a PB&J, but just all that to say is, I remember that being, bring a sandwich, bring a piece of fruit, whatever it is, and it would be a fraction of what it would cost to eat out. In fact, there was a study done where it's $12.75 on average to eat out for lunch, right? Like you could easily, for $3 or $4, bring your own lunch, right, and be able to save that money. And in fact, if you were to do that over a month, the savings is about $175 per month if you were eating out every day at a restaurant versus if you were just to bring your own lunch and brown bag it, as they would call it, right? And so that would be the third way to save money on a low income. The fourth way is pretty interesting because I don't think I would ever thought of this being like a main thing, but did you know the average person spends about $161 a month on clothing when you basically cascade it throughout the entire year? And so that's an enormous amount of money just for clothes, right? And so one of the things that I found, especially when we were paying off our debt, was thrift stores. I would go to thrift stores and I would look through, the nicer stuff in a thrift store, right? Like the designer stuff, because they usually have like a section where it might be sectioned off. And I found these Lucky brand jeans where I think I paid like $5. I might even paid $1 because they have these certain days that if you get like a yellow tag, it's only $1. And so I think it was $1 for these Lucky brand jeans, and they fit so well. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to get more of these. And it's hard to find sometimes in a thrift store the same, brand and model or whatever you want to call it. So I go to the retail store to be like, hey, how much are these? They're $120, like for jeans. Like, did I realize that I could buy 120 pairs of jeans from a thrift store? This is crazy. But so that would be the fourth way to save money on a low income, would be to buy secondhand clothes instead of buying retail, because that is one place where you can control how you spend your money, right? Like you can choose to buy new or you can choose to buy secondhand. Let's just say that instead of $161 a month, you're spending $50 a month. So significantly less, $111 less per month. That's over $1,200 a year, right? So we're getting more and more money back in our pockets, right? And back in your pockets specifically, to where now you can invest for your future, for your retirement, for your kids' college, for emergencies, whatever it might be, right? And so that's something that I know for me was very important. And I think if you're watching this video, it's very important to you as well. The last but not least, number 5, buy a used car. I know. I personally started off, like I said, I bought my first car used, right? In fact, it didn't run. I had to put an ignition in it. I had to, what else did I have to put in it? I had to put something else in it to get it to run. But the idea is like, you can buy a used, reliable car that's gonna get you from point A to point B. In fact, most of my cars throughout the years were around the $1,500 to $3,000 price point. And they were, I don't want to say very reliable, but for a used car, they were reliable. My repairs were usually less than a couple $100, and they were things that I could either do myself or I could take to a mechanic and get them done within a day, right? So these were things like my radiator, brakes, spark plugs, all that kind of stuff. So just very, I would buy cars like a Nissan, Toyota, Honda, stuff that I just knew, these were reliable cars at that price point, and I would be able to get from point A to point B. So did you know the average car payment is $530 per month? Like, mind blown. I mean, just to think, like, I had a car payment at one point in time, twice actually, and I just now realize how much money I wasted. In fact, one of the cars that I had, I bought brand new when my wife and I first got married, right before we got married, and we realized, hey, we had this debt, we want to pay it off. And so I'm like, okay, just bought this car, I put money down, I want to sell it. It was worth less than what I paid or what I owed on it. I can't get out of this car because I can't sell it for what I owe. But then I figured out, oh, all I need to do is come up with the difference and then I could sell it, right? So I came up with $1,000 around there to be able to pay the difference. I found a buyer to buy the car, and I was able to free up 17 grand of debt, which was actually like a $400 a month car payment. And so for me, like, well, that was a huge relief. I was able to now take that $400 and put it towards some credit cards. And then once I paid off those credit cards, I was able to put it towards some student loans. And eventually all of our debt, which was $52,000 of debt, was gone in 18 months. And part of that process was selling the brand new car that everybody says is reliable to get something that was used that was also reliable. And so the reality is you don't have to have a new car That's a lie. Like, you can actually get around with a used car. Like I said, most of my life I've been driving for over 20 years. Wow, I just sounded really old. But most of my cars, like I said, were less than $5,000. My car now is nicer, but still, I bought it used. It was more than 5 years old, paid cash for it, right? I'm not gonna make a car payment ever again. And so that's one of the things I encourage you. If you're watching this and you're on a low income and you have that temptation of, oh, I want that nice car, I wanna be able to have a reliable car, like, hey, just step back, breathe. No, hey, Deacon said I can get a used, reliable car for less than $3,000. It's gonna be okay. And make that decision instead. I hope you found this valuable. I hope you realize I'm coming to you from a point of, I've done most of this myself. I've lived on a low income for many years. And so I want you to now take this information and say, hey, I can make different choices, right? I can actually save money on a low income. I'm not gonna make excuses and say, oh, I don't have money to do X, Y, Z because I got a car payment. I don't have money because I gotta buy new clothes for my kids. I don't have money because I got cable. So the reality is now you're armed with new information, and I hope with that new information, you make decisions that are gonna transform not only your life, but the life of your family as well. So I really appreciate you watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Also, I'd love to hear your experience. If you've lived on a low income, please share ways that you've saved money in the comments below, and appreciate you watching.